Hello. Am I live? I don't even know. Right, there we go. Oh, I am live now. And welcome to my weekly 10 show. Tonight, hang on, it's flickering and flick. I never know if it's working or not, this thing. It goes on and off and on and off and on and off. Eventually it gets there and it stays there. And I know I'm on. So anyway, welcome to my weekly 10 show. It's my episode 62. And tonight I'm talking about how to stay calm in the midst of chaos. And I found myself in a bit of a situation like this week as well, where I got a call basically telling me I failed a drugs test from probation, and the thought of that sent me into a stress spiral, because the thought instantly was that I was going to get recalled to prison. As I'm still on life license, and ironically, the same day they did the test, they told me that they're thinking about revoking the license come November. So I went from being ecstatic and hopeful and happy and everything else to feeling like my world had collapsed. And obviously, I hadn't taken the drug, but at the time, it wasn't about whether I had or hadn't. It was about, Christ, what's going to happen here? And thankfully, you'll be glad to know the situation is now resolved, because I found out what it was, and it was this. It's a tea bag. It's called yerba, and it's got cocoa leaves in it, apparently. And that's why I failed a drugs test. But I didn't know that at the time, and it sent me into a bit of a stressful period. And that's why I'm going to talk about this tonight, because it's important to be able to stay calm when we face chaos in life and things go wrong in life, or unplanned events happen, circumstances go against us which we don't really want. And in order to stay focused and move forward with our lives and stay productive, we need to be able to respond to stress in a productive way and keep moving forward. So that's what I'm going to discuss tonight. Firstly, though, what I want to mention is there's two things I've got going on at the moment, which can benefit people, basically. So if anyone wants to sign up for my mailing lists, they'll receive lots of stuff, basically stuff about my book and my podcast and so on, obviously my coaching as well. But they'll also receive £200 off working with me if they choose to work with me for 5 months. So that's an offer I'm extending to all the people who sign up to my mailing list. Of course, all the people who are currently on there as well can apply for that if they're interested in working with me. Secondly, I'm also offering £150 for anybody who refers somebody to me who ends up working with me. So if you know somebody who might benefit from working with a coach, who might need help, support, guidance, a new way of thinking, a new philosophy, help with their confidence, help moving forward with their life, anything. If you feel that you know somebody who might benefit, if not yourself, then send them my way, and if I end up start working with them, then you receive £150 as a finder's fee, so to speak. So bear that in mind, and if you do know anyone, give them my details and send them my way, and make sure that they tell me that you sent them. Okay, so the story tonight, anyway. So as I just said, life it's never a straight road. There's always going to be bumps in the road, and that's just inevitable. We can't avoid things going wrong. We can't avoid circumstances going against us and curveballs being thrown in our direction in the shape of stressors, which come out of the blue sometimes. We don't have to have done anything, like I found the other day. It happens, and it's just, you don't expect it, but it just happens. But how you react or how you respond is incredibly important, because it's normal to react to a situation like that, a stressor. When it happens, we react, and when we react, our energy drops. We start to see things from a lower level of energy. We start feeling frustrated, victimized perhaps, and as a result of that, we only tend to think or see the worst scenario. Our fears start projecting themselves. So in my case the other day, I was, oh no, I'm going back to prison. That's the first thing I thought, because that was my fear. So it was projecting my fears, because my energy had dropped. I wasn't thinking rationally at this point. I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to happen. And when you feel like that, it's natural and normal that you're going to feel crap. Basically, your energy is going to be low and you're not going to be able to function in a productive way. You're not going to be able to think clearly, and you certainly ain't going to be able to do the things that you want to do, such as work or other things like that. So it's important to be able to respond to situations when they happen rather than react. And if you react to a situation, it's also important to be able to recognize that you're reacting to that situation and not responding to it, so that you do bring yourself out of that mindset as quick as you possibly can and then choose to respond to it. And if you do that, you give yourself the opportunity to then be able to think much more rationally, much more clearly and calmly, without the worries and the fears and the projected assumptions and the doubts and the limiting beliefs that happen when your energy drops and you feel low and you only see things from the perspective of problems. What's going on? What's the worst scenario that can happen? So you're going to only focus on that. When your energy drops, you're only going to ever focus on the worst scenario of any situation. You're not going to see it from a perspective where you're thinking about what good could come from this, what positives are happening here, what's the actual truth of the situation, how can I conduct myself in a way that's going to keep me moving forward. So that's why it's important to always respond rather than react to situations, stressors, when they happen to you. And they always do. It's life. Happens some people more than others, but it happens. So what tends to happen is when we experience a stressor, we go into what's called the fight-flight response. And that's a physiological reaction that occurs naturally in all of us in response to a perceived harmful event or attack or threat or something bad going on. And it's a natural thing that all of us happens to everyone. And as a consequence of that, your perspectives change too. And instead of seeing things from a high level of energy, you're going to see them from a low level of energy. And that means that you literally cannot see the wood for the trees. You end up not being able to rationalise or see anything with any sort of sense of intelligence, because you're only ever going to see it in the low level energy. So naturally, as a result of feeling like that, fearful, you're going to get a sense of anxiety, worry, stress. And then what happens is that takes over. You start getting even more worried. And then you start conjuring up even more stuff that could go wrong. Before you know it, you're in a situation where you don't know where you are. You're all at sea. And that can create even more problems, because then you're going to make decisions or choices which are not really the right ones. And they can lead you into another situation which is not good for you. So it's important to always be able to be aware of the fact that when you do have a stressor in life, not to react to it at once. And if you do feel that your energy drops, and you do feel that you're having fears and worries and things like that, to just stop that thinking straight away and be able to calm yourself down, bring yourself back to a much more aware, conscious way of thinking, and choose to think of it in a much more calm perspective, and rationalise and see it in a much more clear, responsible sort of way, where you're not looking at it through the lens of fear and things like that. So and it's the state of mind that we're in when you're in that way of being. It's really draining, because it basically stops us in our tracks. And it's again, like I found the other day, everything I wanted to do, I suddenly went out the window. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. It's drained me. It completely drained me. It took up most of my evening, because I didn't know what had caused it at that point. And then naturally, obviously, when I found out, I was much more happier. I was calmer. I responded to it, because what I did is I managed to calm myself down, stop the thoughts that were draining me, the worries, the fears, the things like that, and think of it in a rational way, and start looking into it and thinking, well, actually, this didn't happen, so I want to know what happens here. And I was able to find out the reason why. And that's what happens when you respond to something. You don't react to it. If I just reacted, then it could have got worse. I could have gone, oh no, I don't know why, and then who knows what would have happened, So you know, when you respond, you're able to be much more conscious. Simple as that. You're able to think of it in a clear way. And it's important to be consciously aware of your thinking at all times, really. But I mean, especially when you're under stress, and you can choose how you think, what you think, your perspectives, and your emotions that follow that. So the moment you feel fearful of something, and you find yourself thinking the worst possible scenario, you will experience anxiety, you will experience stress and all of those things. So it's important to stop that process in its tracks at the earliest stage. Some people can go on for ages like that, but it's important to stop at an earlier stage and bring yourself back to the awareness, be much more conscious in the moment, breathe, take some stock, stop all the thoughts, do something that's going to break you out of that thinking for 5 minutes at least, so that you've given yourself the time to sort of balance your thinking, and then choose your perspectives from a much more conscious viewpoint, so that you're not looking at it from the perspective of problems, you're looking at it from the perspective of opportunities, possibilities. What can I learn from myself? What's this situation teaching me here? What can I do to, firstly, calm myself down and think clearly, and secondly, learn from the situation so that I can actually move forward with it and find out what the growth within it is, because there's always something to learn within every situation that we experience. So instead of subconsciously telling yourself this isn't going to end well, I'm not good enough, I'm going to go back to prison, you know, consciously tell yourself something different instead. So what is this situation teaching me? I'm more than capable of coping with this situation, whatever happens, and I'm not going back to prison. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. It's very important to be out, especially in this world, because it's crazy. There's so much nutty things going on, and it's chaos. And if you allow all of that to get to you and drain you and lower your energy, how productive are you going to be in your life? How likely are you going to achieve the goals that you want in your life? You won't, because you're always going to be stressed out. You're always going to be anxious. You're always going to be overthinking. You're always going to be worrying about things. Your confidence is going to be low. You won't get things done. Your relationships will suffer. Everything goes wrong when you are stressed and in that sort of mindset of worry and low energy. So if you're interested in getting out of that mindset permanently, then call me, because I'm the one who can help you do that. And that's all I'm going to say tonight, because I'm running out of time. So remember those offers at the start. If you're interested in a one-to-one coaching with me, get in touch, and I will talk to you all next time. Thank you, and good night. Come on.